Hello. Seems to be a fair few people in the chat. It's not saying that the stream's very good, so that's why I've been messing around. So sorry for the late appearance, even though it's later than normal. So apologies being 7 minutes later than what I kind of expected. So I'm not really too sure whether you're going to see, hear, whatever. So you have to let me know whether you can hear me. At least that's a good start, and if you can see me, then that's a bonus. Possibly not for you, but that'd be good to find out. Let us know whether I'm coming through loud and clear. But thank you very much for dropping in. Who is here? So can you hear me, guys? Can you hear me? Am I coming through loud and clear at least? Let me know. The bar on the top's just gone green, which is a good sign. So let me know. There was a bit of a delay. Come on, guys, tell me. There's 9 in here now. Please tell me whether you can hear me, see me. Don't keep me hanging on. Come on. Do it on purpose. Stop it. Aha. You right, Craig? Good. That's good. That's good. Okay, guys. Well, oh, here we go. It's paused. So I can come here. Okay, cool. Right. We'll talk about that in a minute, Will. Right, okay, we're going to start the show then. Hopefully you can see us. We've got 8 people in here at the moment. Hopefully it'll fill up. It's a little bit later than normal. But, welcome, guys. Welcome to Wargaming Weekly. The weekly, sometimes sort of show. Yeah, so the weekly show where we talk all things Wargaming related. We go through news, rumours, talk a bit about tournaments, tactics, general chit-chat, anything that we want to kind of talk about. So it's pretty chilled out. There's no real fixed time to it. We generally go on for about an hour. If you're watching this back, please do come and drop in on a live show. We try to go live every Thursday at 10 o'clock. I say we because quite often joined by the lads from Twisted Dice. Either Sean or Darren tends to pop along as well. So so welcome. As always, brought to you by Wargames. Do check out Wargames for all your Wargaming goodies. Great discounts, fantastic availability, everything that you need really. If you can't find it on the website, then do hit them up by email or give them a call, and they'll see whether they can get hold of what you need. So all good stuff. So as always, welcome to everybody. So we've got Wargames in there. That's interesting. I wonder who that is. Is that Martin coming from the Canada, or is that one of the other guys? I don't know. But hello Will, hello Harry, Matty, Craig, Rob, you legend. Anybody else? There's 9 people in here. Anyone else wants a roll call? Roll call. That sounds right. Let's have a quick scroll up, see if there's anyone else in here. That's all who's talking at the moment. But hello everybody. Thank you very much for dropping along. Big thanks as always to my patrons. So I don't really shout them out enough, but thank you very much for supporting me, guys. If you want to support me, there is always a link in the description where you can jump over and check out my Patreon account and support the channel, bringing you some more hot content, and also in the process we'll get yourself some dice in the post for you. And as many people that got some of the dice at the Northwest Open, they only roll 6s because they are weighted dice, obviously. So yeah, can't go wrong. But yeah, so do check that out. And as always, can you please hit the subscribe button and the like, and click on that little bell, so if there is any channel updates, anything that comes out, you'll hit it and hear it straight hot off the press. And we've got a lot of videos coming up. So I've got 2 battle reports that I'm in the process of editing. One should drop hopefully by this weekend, if not early next week, and the other one will be up Friday, Saturday of next week. So that's 2 battle reports, and you've not seen a lot of battle reports coming out of the channel for a while, so some good stuff there, and both of them are really fun games. So one is against Rob's fantastic Necrons, awesome army. And also I've got a wicked game against Will's Genestealer Cult. 2 very wacky lists, great games. So check them out, they're coming very soon. So absolutely make sure you've got your finger on the pulse and get that bell button clicked. So as far as releases this week, just checking to see if there's anyone dropped in. Oh yeah, so it is Martin. Hey Martin, over the other side of the world, kind of. So new releases this week, a little bit of a quieter release, and for pre-orders as well. Obviously we've just had Grey Knight and the Chaos Space Marine Codex drop and all the goodness that comes with that. This week we've got those funny, let me say horrendously ugly looking tree things, so yeah, they need to try and clear them out, so they've kind of come up. But I suppose the big news is we know that Death Guard is very close, so the Codex, Mortarion and all the goodness that comes with that should be very soon, just around the corner. And also General's Handbook 2, and they released a trailer of a kind of Nurgle-y kind of updatey bit there, so maybe more Nurgle in both Age of Sigmar and in 40k, which is exciting time to just have a Nurgle army, which is what I have. So we have a Nurgle army as well, which is cool. So much to talk about, but we'll drop into that a little bit later in the channel. So we've got that to come, but yeah, ultimately I think we're all very excited to see Mortarion, and particularly to see his stats. So I'd be interested to hear whether anybody in the chat has seen any rumours of stats and stuff like that, because I've not, and I had a good old snoop around this evening to see if I could find anything around what he's actually going to be like on the table, because he's got some big boots to fill, because both Magnus and the old rowboat, old Mr. G, are both pretty awesome in 8th edition, massive force multipliers and huge beat sticks. So Mortarion's got a lot to live up to if he's to be anywhere near as good as those two guys. And where will he fit? Will he be a kind of, he looks smaller, so will he be a kind of like Guilliman, potentially Demon Princey type, less wounds so he can't get targeted, which ultimately makes him better in 8th edition, or will he be full on Magnus brutality, loads of wounds, and an absolute nightmare, kind of in your face kind of killing ability? Who knows? So it'd be interesting to hear what you guys, whether you know anything or whether you've seen anything. I've certainly not, so yeah, so that'd be cool. But yeah, really excited to find out what's going on with that. But before we kind of talk about too many like news, rumours and kind of chat about what's to come, let's just talk a little bit about what's coming up, what the news is, and what there's kind of the tournaments and what have you. So we've got some good stuff rocking around. So we've got the No Retreat tournaments that are just around the corner. Obviously they are sold out this time, they are fully booked in, and everyone's getting ready to unleash their lists on the world. So very exciting times there. And if you haven't already, check out the SM Battle Reports Facebook page, jump on there, so you can keep up to date with all the pictures and all the build up to that event, because the armies will always be fantastic, will always be beautiful and stunning, and great to see. And also SM Battle Reports is an awesome place to go anyway, to check out some really good narratively driven reports, written old White Dwarf style battle reports, and they've recently released their data crypts, which is a way of getting even more content and viewing even more cool stuff. So definitely check them out if you haven't already. Hopefully you have. So we've got that coming up, and obviously as soon as that one's gone, then that's the time to start thinking about looking at maybe applying for the next one, because it's a little bit of tournament utopia there. But also we've got some other big news. We've got very soon the tickets will go on sale for the first big Age of Sigmar tournament at Wargames. So that's all being organised by Georgie, and it no doubt it'll be awesome. I'm hoping to be there. It's proving to be harder than what I first expected. I've got quite a busy schedule for the remainder of this year, I've got to kind of keep things in context, because obviously work and family has to come first. So we'll see. I'd very much like to, but Southport is not round the corner for me, and it's quite a trek to get up there. It is a whole weekend away, but you know, it will be an incredible event. So if you like Age of Sigmar and you want to take part in what will be you know, almost certainly a General's Handbook 2 tournament, it's an awesome game. I still, at the moment, I prefer it to 40k. I just think it's slightly more balanced and it kind of plays better just generally. I think it's a bit more of a basicer game, but it does prove for really good gameplay. It's really quick and really fun, so I can't say enough good things about Age of Sigmar, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the General's Handbook 2 does to that gameplay. So on top of that, we have the Last Chance Open that is coming up now. So we've got a date now. So it will be, I'm trying to remember what it is now. Martin will probably know it and just go like that. But I think it's about 20th, 21st, something like that. So something like that, I'm going to say. But it's the weekend before the Las Vegas Open. It will no doubt be another sellout. We sold out pretty much all of the tickets for the Northwest Open within the first sort of 6 hours of them going on sale, and really it was only through just a few late dropouts that any other tickets came available. So and kind of everybody that went to the Northwest Open pretty much wants to sign up for the next one, so don't miss out on that. It is the same week as the Caledonian Open, or whatever it's called, Caledonian Uprising, I'm not really too sure, but widely just known as Cali. So it's going to be a big tournament weekend, full stop, but we really still expect it to be particularly quickly selling, so don't hesitate, get your tickets when they go on sale. We're expecting them to go on sale, I think we sort of said round the end of September, beginning of October. We might change that date. That'll be all up to Martin and the guys at Wargames when they want to kind of send that out, but that's going to be a pretty incredible tournament, so one definitely to look forward to there. And obviously then that will drive on to the big one, which is the Las Vegas Open. So really cool tournament stuff, and it's really kind of hotting up as we go through till the big part of the year tournament wise. So exciting stuff there. So we'll just jump over to chat and see what other people are saying. 28th mine saying, sorry, 19th, kidding, you're as bad as me. So yes, so 19th is the tournament, so that's the Last Chance Open, and tickets to go on sale the 2nd of October. So put that date in your diary, because they will go quick. We'll do lots and lots of more announcements with that going forward, but it's one definitely to put in your diary. So I think there's still some little issues with the stream, so apologies if I'm a bit kind of freezing up and what have you. But hopefully the audio is still coming through loud and clear, with fingers crossed. Okay, so that's the kind of the news, the rumours, well, not the rumours, but the news of what's going on. Now I thought what we talk about today is we talk a little bit about the big kind of releases over the last sort of month, because we've had Space Marine Codex launched and landed. We've now had the Chaos Space Marine Codex land last weekend, as well as the Grey Knight one, and just wanted to talk a little bit about how that is changing, not necessarily the meta, because that will take a little bit longer before that real kind of competitive age changes, because people will still be ultimately trying to find the broken combinations within those books and within generally the indexes. So I don't expect things to change dramatically that quickly, but already there seems to be a slight turn and a slight change in the approach, and no doubt that will continue to change as we get more and more codexes. But I just wanted to talk about how they kind of sit from a power level. I've got the Space Marine Codex. I've read the Chaos Space Marine one quite a lot, and I've had a quick glance at the Grey Knights one. So I just want to kind of talk and touch a little bit on all of them, and kind of talk about their strengths and weaknesses, potentially give you guys a little bit of a hand if you're if you're kind of interested in any 3 of those armies, and just a general kind of overview of where we are with them. And obviously it'd be interesting to hear what you guys think of those 3 codexes. Is it an army that you're currently collecting? Is it an army that you're just kind of starting off? Is it an army that you've had for ages and actually now it's kind of been refreshed by those codexes? Is there something particularly you're excited about? So I'd be interested to see what people say in the chat. I've got a couple more people in the chat. Hello, Underdog Painting and Kenneth Morley. Hello, mate. So, right, let's start off with Space Marines. Let's start off at the beginning. Start off with Space Marines. That's been here a little while now. And there's some big winners in that codex. So Ultramarines, who were already the flavour of the moment because of old G-Man, got pretty much stronger. They got a lot stronger. So they are very much enjoying the best Warlord trait, because the Ultramarine Warlord trait means that every time that they lose a command point, they get to try and regenerate it, which is just crazy good. Gilliman gives them 3 extra command points anyway. Their relic, they have a 3+ invulnerable Iron Halo relic, which is crazy good. And their general chapter tactics mean that they can fall back and still shoot. So they 100% got the best overall way of playing. So I still think that nothing's going to change from that point of view. If you're an Ultramarine player or you want to play your Space Marines as Ultramarines, I think they're still possibly your best competitive build. They are very good, and the good thing, the thing with them is they're very good all round. So they're quite resilient, but because of all those command points, you can really play them in a number of different ways. It really means that they are very flexible to be able to adjust. But what you will want to do is you will want to pad that army out to give you as many points as possible. So don't be surprised either if you're playing against or if you're trying to build an Ultramarine army or generally a Space Marine army, of trying to get in a brigade or multiple battalions, because those stratagems are insanely good, really powerful, and will give you the real flexibility to change the way that the game's going. I'm trying to think whether I've actually got. Give me 2 seconds and I'll see whether I can actually just grab the book for you. Something just made a very funny noise there. I'm not really too sure what that was, but yeah, something made a very weird noise. I don't know whether you heard that, guys, but something was very weird there. Okay, let's just have a little look at these stratagems and kind of just talk through a little bit of them. As I said, I'm not going to go into every single one. So we're talking about Ultramarines, as I said, and so they've got one around bikers. So Ultramarine infantry and bikers units selected to attack in the shooting phase can reroll hit rolls of 1, so that's not that great, but then normal tactical squads could reroll everything. So it was the old kind of chapter tactics when you used to pop your tactical whatever it was called and used to get all your rerolls. When you got Gilliman around, it always seems a bit redundant, to be fair. Yeah. Alright, Will, don't be mean. But yes, there's that. But I think, you know, so obviously you've got some really cool ones just generally. So you've got orbital bombardment, which is always going to be useful. You're going to have the one that most of the different codexes are going to have, which is the ability to have an additional relic, which I think is a no-brainer. Relics are free, but you can only have one. So you use a stratagem to kind of get yourself an extra relic. And some of the relics are incredibly good. We'll talk about them in a little bit. We've got some sort of unit specialist ones. Again, you've got one for Predators, one for Vindicators, that type of thing. But yeah, so you've got, what was the one I really liked, which is I can find what it is. There's a really cool one for like heavy bolters, where you can do just mortal wounds. What was it called? Can't remember what it's called now. Why can I not find it when you need something? Hellfire shells. So yeah, so you can use this stratagem, and instead of doing the normal shots, you can do one shot, but it does D3 mortal wounds. Really cool. So there's some great little stratagems that are going to be really useful, and obviously people get very confused with stratagems because they think, oh, can I use one per phase? No, you can't. You can use as many per phase as you want. You can just use only use one type once, so you can still use multiple. So there's still an option to, if you've got a lot of command points, really be quite disgusting with your different combinations of stratagems. So some really cool stuff there. Let's have a quick look at the relics, because I was really impressed with some of these relics, and particularly if you can stack them. So, and they're the same old thing again. So the Shield Eternal is awesome. So it gives you a free up invuln, but also any damage that is suffered is halved. That's crazy. So that means, you know, you stick that on a captain who's already pretty good, because they're like re-rolling ones with him. He's already fairly resilient. You know, he's got, you know, he's just a good general character. Really well pointed for what he does. Stick the Shield Eternal on him, and suddenly, you know, he's an absolute he's just a nightmare to kind of get rid of. So it's really cool one. The standard is a really insane one. So with this one, Company Ancient, so this guy, if you have the standard, you can add 1 dice roll to any friendly character model within 6 of the bearer. Can summon the strength to make a final attack when he's slain. In addition, whilst within 6 inches of the bearer, friendly Astartes models automatically pass morale tests. Basically, it's that kind of thing. Happens a little bit in Age of Sigmar, so he dies and then he gets another shot, which gets pretty crazy. It's pretty brutal. Put him near the right type of units, and suddenly you've got something that's dishing out an awful lot of pain. So as I said, you've got the Halo, which is the Ultramarines one, which is cool. So it can only be taken by a captain, but that gives him a free up invuln, and he can deny the witch, you know, to spells, and which is cool. So yeah, some really good ones. Some great looking relics. So in all, this is a very good book. The other real winners, and this is no surprise, people have been talking about it, so this isn't revolutionary, but Raven Guard, incredibly good. Having that -1 to hit outside 12 inches means you can do quite a lot. You know, gun line style, they're really going to struggle to do damage. So armies that are doing very well on the competitive scene at the moment, armies like the Emperor's Car Park, that we're seeing all over the place, when that's Raven Guard, really difficult to deal with, unless you've got something to kind of deep strike in, or you've got enough to deep strike in. You're going to find it extremely difficult to deal with that, because your whole army is just really resilient. So that's going to be really good. And also Salamanders, with all their rerolls, you combine that with the stratagems, and your rerolls from your command points, and again you've got stuff, you're rerolling stuff all the time. You know, you're making those guns so much more accurate. So you've got some really good combinations, and even there's some cool stuff in there for the likes of your Iron Hands. You'll be able to, you know, move your stuff up really quickly, still shooting at full ballistic skill. And the way that you can stack some of the relics, some of the warlord traits, you can find yourself getting like a free up invuln followed by like a 6-up Iron Hand save followed by another warlord save on top of that. So you can again make things really resilient in that way as well. So there's some really cool stuff. So that's the Space Marine Codex. And we just have a quick look at the chat, see what's happening. Hellfire rounds, yep, that's cool. I'm not going to talk about Jaffa Cakes. Instant Abaddon, yeah, exactly, Craig. So yeah, so basically it's what, so you take that Shield Eternal and suddenly they are Abaddon for probably half the points, I'm guessing, something like that. Hello Keith, you legend. Ace, when the rules for other things dropped, folks instantly went 100 Gene Stealers, Commander Spam, Car Park. When you looked at these rules, what first struck you as the obvious? From the Space Marine one, for me, it's around that Ultramarines 100%, Guilliman, but then trying to get a brigade that works, because for me it's sounding very much like a battle company. So you're getting closer to that. So you're getting lots of units, your troops choices are objective secure, you've got a fairly resilient army anyway, you've got your characters in there giving you the buffs, the reliability. That's where I think the real kind of strength is. The strength in depth of all the units being really, really good. I suppose that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing much more that Space Marine army being much more like the Battle Company, much more like the War Convocation, much more like an army that has lots of different parts, lots of different moving parts, but punishes you in that kind of way. That's potentially what I'm seeing in that regards. But I think it's very much, and I really like it because I think it's a bit of a thinker's codex. I think there's some really nasty combos in there, but I think they are not quite as obvious as just finding the most points efficient unit and then spamming it, which I think is cool. So there's still going to be an element of that, 100%. I mean, the aggressors, I think they're called, actually they're being poo-pooed, but actually at their points, if you spammed a lot of them, and you put them with Guilliman and you run them forward, or you had like a captain with a jetpack, I think they'd be pretty insane as well. So there's some real nasty stuff that you could still kind of spam in that codex, but for me, my initial thing was with all those stratagems, that's what you're kind of looking at. You're building a really powerful army with lots of moving parts. 5 Storm Ravens and Guilliman. Yeah, I'm glad that's gone as well. Yeah, it has gone, but I think you can get like 3 Storm Ravens and some other cool little land units, and you're still going to blow a lot of people off the table. But I'm pleased it's pretty much gone. Yeah, lots of shots from the aggressors. Yeah, I think the aggressors, there's something really there, and the thing is, it is all around that kind of reliability of shots. It's going back to that whole thing with the bringing down Magnus, and you just bring Magnus down with weight of low power multiple shots that are accurate, because you're re-rolling hits, re-rolling wounds. That's what kills stuff in this game. If you could have stuff that shoots lots and lots and lots at a fairly good strength, ideally, but generally it's just around accuracy and it's about volume. That's what brings, and that's what gives you the multi-ability in this game, because people are putting a lot of chaff on the table and you need to get through chaff. So you are not going to win a tournament, and you're not going to win that many games just by having tons of las cannons. It just won't work, because yes, you'll beat one specialist army that decides to spam big monsters or all mech, but ultimately you're going to come a cropper when you come across most of these really powerful builds, which are tons of something like that, tons of brimstone horrors, tons of gaunts, tons of drones, whatever it might be. Armies are being built on chaff protecting characters, and yet you're going to have snipers to deal with them, assassins, what have you. But ultimately, if you've got guns that are really accurate, shooting a lot of shots, they're really, really powerful. So anyway, that's that. Let's have a little look. Do I troll you? Nice name. I'm sure you've been in the chat before, my friend, but welcome. Would a Deathwing list that's accurate to the fluff be considered spam? Because I really like the fluff and Terminator models, but don't want to be labelled as a cheese spam player. So that's a really tricky one, and that's basically the same kind of thing around a lot of armies. So no, ultimately, if you're building a list that's kind of to the fluff, it's not spam. It is something different. But what you'll find, and what will be spam, is when you get like some more updated rules for like Dark Angels a little bit further down the channel, and it's the, say, Deathwing Knights that become the real powerhouses in that, and they're the most efficient points wise. If you find a way of spamming lots and lots of them and very few potential like your normal Terminators, then that's suddenly, yeah, you're going, oh, it's all Terminators. It is, but actually all you're doing really is using the most efficient unit, which is spamming the Knights, and that's when it becomes actually you're clutching at straws to say that that's a fluffy list. But I think, you know, a general Deathwing army is always fluffy. It's going to be fluffy. It's what you add to it. So if you then got like a Dark Shroud giving them all -1 and stuff like that, then you're using a general fluff thing, but then you're adding in extra things to then suddenly make it just spam that works. But if you keep true to the fluff in its entirety, then I don't think anyone can ultimately really call you a spamming kind of cheese player. But people will. People always do it anyway, and you've got to be thick-skinned in this game, haven't you, Will? Some more stuff about spam and all stuff like that. So let's go on and talk about the Chaos Space Marine Codex. Now I don't have that on me, I don't own that, but I did have a good old look at it last weekend when it dropped, and I've read a lot of reviews on it, and kind of, so what is it like? So in a nutshell, it's very similar to the Space Marine one. Pretty much what they did with the I can't remember what the Space Marine kind of supplement was called, Angels of Death or something like that. It might have been Angels of Death. But so they had their book with all the updated kind of chapter tactics and relics and specialist stuff to the chapters. And then what Games Workshop did not long after with kind of Traitor's Hate and that they just basically copied and pasted it, changed the wording and the names, and then put it in a new book, because ultimately that's what people asked for. So they wanted the flavour and the kind of feel of chapter tactics in a Chaos Space Marine army, and that's exactly what they delivered. Didn't work very hard on it because it's very much a copy and paste. In a lot of ways they've done quite similar with this, so a lot of your key features, a lot of the stratagems are exactly the same, with some extra flavour coming from the unique legion, traitor legions. So is it good? Yes, it is good. Now it doesn't have the new Primus units obviously, and it just generally doesn't have any new units. It's the same stuff as before. And it's obviously missing Thousand Suns, pretty much so, and missing Death Guard, because we know that they will have their own codexes coming, even though they are still in there in a lesser extent. But what you have got now is you have got those Traitor Legion tactics, and some of them are good, and some of them are really good, particularly. And this is kind of, so we talked about Ultramarines being the big winners. The big winners in the Chaos Space Marine are Alpha Legion by an absolute ton. Alpha Legion are so good in comparison to everybody else. So they have the best Warlord traits, particularly from a competitive level. So their Warlord trait, and it's the same as what it used to be, it's that I'm Alfarius bit. So basically it's almost impossible to pin down the Warlord, because you can pretty much just change him around. He keeps passing it off, so more or less until every character's killed in that enemy army, it's pretty much impossible to get bloody Warlord. So that's a really powerful, really powerful trait, and that's crazy good. On top of that, they again have the ability to have the minus to shooting when they're outside of 12, so they have the Raven Guard basically rule. But then on top of that, they have an incredibly good stratagem where they can basically take a unit and at the beginning of the game pretty much give them an auto charge. As I said, I don't have the book in front of me and I can't remember what it's called, but in theory you just take a unit and you kind of pretty much drop him wherever you want, and then you can then move him and charge and what have you. So it's kind of like a little suicide alpha strike unit within your army. You can just chuck it in there and just away it goes, which is crazy cool. Obviously you can only do it once, but it's crazy cool. So very good. yeah, I think someone talked about obliterators. So yeah, so obliterators, obviously cool. So they've not got cheaper, but they've got much more bang for their buck. Now they get more shots. Ultimately, they're still quite a random. They're a bit. They now play very, very similar to the looters. They remind me very much of, because it's a dice roll, and the flash kits used to be the same as well. So it's a very orky kind of randomness to their shooting. Can be incredibly effective and very, very painful. Can be pretty average. And to be honest with you, at the points they cost, they're only T4. They do have an invon, but they're going to go down pretty quick. They're quite an elite troop. Yeah, I think someone mentioned there, I watched the game that Tabletop Tactics put up yesterday or a couple of days ago, and obviously Joe's playing his what they're called, Iron Warriors, with his like kind of obliterator kind of list. And yeah, it's good when it works. It's really, really powerful, but it's just one of those things. It's small amounts of models that can get hit really heavily, and then they kind of fall apart ever so quick. So I think it has the potential of being strong, but I still think it's not your top end list. It's fun and cool and fluffy in an Iron Warriors, but it's not that strong. So that's Chaos Space Marines in a nutshell. So I don't have the book to go through a lot of stuff with you, but so Alpha Legion are definitely the big winners. They're the ones you want to take. Black Legion are probably your all-rounders, so they should be kind of your based against your Ultramarines. They're not quite as good. Abaddon's still a great force multiplier and a really, really cool person to have if you've got a Black Legion army. And I would say possibly the second best Legion is World Eaters. World Eaters are very, very good. They're absolutely brutal. You just still, even in 8th edition, where it's much more, it is much more geared to combat, but shooting is still king, and you have to find a way of accurately getting your guys into combat without them getting shot to bits. So you're going to need, you're going to need some sort of pods, you're going to need to use stratagems, you need to do whatever you can do to kind of get them up in their face, which is tricky. It's still tricky because shooting is so powerful, and that is always going to be your kind of, to run a full bloody World Eaters army like everybody wants to do is quite challenging, because you are going to find you get shot to bits. Yes, when they get there, they're going to work, they're going to do well, but again, these, the Berserkers, there's a lot of talk about Berserkers being so incredible, and they're just really, really not, because they get tons of attacks, but you have to stack all those buffs on them, so it's very it has to kind of work for you. So you have to get everything there in the right place in the right time, and then you have to target the right unit that's not going to be resilient enough to take a bash in, because if they do, then they're going to interrupt your Berserkers, and then they're going to cut them down before they even strike again, and that's pretty tough going, because when you're putting a lot of eggs in one basket, you need that attack to really sting. So yeah, as much as I would love them to do really, really well, I still think it's going to struggle against the top list, because it's going to get shot to pieces, or it's going to hit into a wall of chaff that's too resilient for it. It's just not going to deal with a world of pain from Brimstone Horrors. It's just not going to kill enough of them, because it's ultimately going to have a -1, because the Changeling will be there, they're going to have a 4-up invon. It's just going to hit that wall of chaff, and it's just going to sit there and just get smited until it's gone. So I just don't, as much as I would love it to do really, really well, it's not a top tier list unless I'm missing something. Let's have a little look here. Yes, we're talking about that. Berserkers with chain axes are insane. Yeah, and they are. If you can get there, Craig, they are bloody good. No one's kind of arguing that. But if you've got the command points to interrupt, it's not gonna. Don't forget, Smite has been reduced for horrors. It has, but it's not the horrors. It's the heralds behind them and the demon princes that are smiting the hell out of you. The horrors, that was never really the attack. People that were depending on the smites from the horrors were playing them wrong. They're just about chaff. You know, Chris, who came second at the Northwest Open, if you ask him, he won't tell you he got much damage output from the horrors. It was just about the fact that they just soaked up and frustrated, and ultimately the way to play them now is actually not just you have tons of them, but then you just summon more in if you need. So it's crazy. Yeah, Fat Pod's the way to go. Add in a Dark Apostle for extra rerolls, and that's the thing. So yes, there's absolutely ways of making the World Eaters work as an incredibly powerful combat army, but you're so much depending on all these stacks and buffs to be there and to work, because as soon as one or two of them start to fade away, you've suddenly got Space Marines basically with an extra attack and possibly a bit stronger. But it's just not, it's not scary when you're comparing it to the alpha lists that are out there ultimately, and that's where you're going to come unstuck. That's where they're not going to win tournaments. There'll be certain armies, and particularly to an inexperienced player, they will completely flatten them, and that's cool when it happens, because that's very fluffy, and that's the way that is the way the World Eaters should work. And they'll run through people, but a really optimized list against a good player who's got the right units in the right place, they're going to come unstuck. They're going to come unstuck really, really quickly, and that's the reality of it. Really, reality of it. So that's Chaos Space Marines, and before we go on to just taking some sort of real kind of any questions, we'll just touch on Grey Knights, and Grey Knights, you know, not too bad at all. And this was the one of the 3 codexes that I only very briefly kind of scanned over. So the big kind of news for Grey Knights is, one, they now get chaplains, which is okay, and the chaplains are actually psychers, which is quite weird. So that's kind of cool in a way, and it's quite cool for Grey Knights to have chaplains. I don't know if they ever had them in the fluff, but Games Workshop, if they want to shift a model, they'll change the fluff, so good on them. But just dropped my mic, so hopefully you didn't all get deafened there. So that's kind of the chaplain. But the big news is the beast that is a Grand Master in a Dread Knight, and that's so cool. And actually, that is where I can see spam, you know. So wowee, I think we could see armies of those things using that command, the Supreme Command Detachment. I could see armies of Grandmasters. I think that's a real thing. I think ultimately, and how many wounds have they got off the top of my head? They do go over the limit, don't they? They're not. They can be targeted, I'm pretty sure. Someone will tell us in the chat. But even with that as the case, I can see that with their weapons, you take the silencer is the one you want, with loads and loads of shots. They're ridiculously good in combat. They got psychic powers. They're incredible. Yeah, 12 wounds. Yeah, so they can be targeted. Incredibly resilient. You put on, stack in their relics and their saves. As I said, because they're a Grandmaster in a Dread Knight armor, it doesn't stop them from having all the cool stuff as well. You give them all the cool psychic powers. They're pretty epic. So I would see, and actually for me, I think I suppose I like the whole Monster Mash thing. That's why, as much as people despised it, I loved the look of Riptides on the table. And actually, as much as it might be really, really cheesy, I actually think it's going to look so cool to have like an army of Dread Knights. I just think that's wicked. I can't ever imagine that, you know. You've got Greater Demon, like infestation of Greater Demons coming through the warp and what have you. You know, you can imagine, you know, these Grandmasters all kind of teaming up and jumping in their dread suits. That just sounds epically cool. I like that. It kind of works for me. But I just think it's because I like seeing monsters on the table, and I just think I like the big toys. So I think that's really, really cool, and I think that could be very powerful. I think they're always going to have the problem with The problem that Grey Knights always have is they're a very elite force, so they find it hard to stack the command points that they need to really kind of get all the cool stratagems. It's almost impossible for them to get a brigade, and they even struggle to get a battalion particularly well. Their Terminators are still well overpriced, so you're much better take the Paladins. Paladins are good, very, very good. Drago, obviously now with Sanctuary, he can be a 2-up invuln, which is crazy. Stick him with the Paladins, they jump, they kind of deep strike in. You've got an Apothecary in there. You've basically got a Death Star, even though it's not. So I think Grey Knights have got a real kind of boost with that. Probably with the exception of their Terminators, you're just not going to see too many just standard Grey Knight Terminators. Anyone that's got Terminators, they're going to be Paladins from now on, absolutely 100%. But they've got some cool relics, they've got some cool psychic powers. The Dread Knights, particularly Grandmasters and Dread Knights, are epically cool. So yeah, I think Grey Knight players will be pretty chuffed with that. Whether they will be featuring on the top tables, I don't know. But I think that there's something in that Grandmaster Dread Knight spam. I think that might be a thing, potentially. Might be too expensive points. I've not stuck it all on the list. I don't know how many you could get in there reliably, but who knows? That might be a thing. That might be a thing. So anyway, so that's the 3 codexes, and that's kind of my kind of thoughts on it. But cool, really 3 cool codexes, adding some extra flavour, the stratagems, the way that they're encouraging people to kind of build armies in that way. I think is a good thing, and we'll just have to wait and see now what the next few codexes come. So we know that Death Guard's going to be next, 100%. I didn't really hear too much stuff. I'm guessing that we haven't heard anything about these stats and things for Mortarion, but that's going to be cool. And yeah, I said, so I've got a Nurgle army now. So it's a Nurgle Demons army, but it's all really coolly painted. It's all ready to go. I'm planning on filming a battle report with that in the next sort of week or so. So you'll see the Nurgle on the channel very, very soon. And I'm looking forward to potentially dropping in a small amount of Death Guard in there and Mortarion. Hopefully, if he's as good as what I'm hoping he'll be, and hopefully there'll be something really kind of exciting and fresh for you to see on the channel. But I think he's going to be very, very cool, and I think Nurgle are a strong army in itself. So you think you can get 8? That's pretty crazy. 8 Grandmasters. Okay, that's pretty mental. So yeah, so that's next is Death Guard, so we'll see what happens with that. I think ultimately they'll be down the same predictable way. The fact they'll be incredibly resilient. They'll get most probably stratagems and relics to make them even more resilient. They're never going to be a massive damage output, and I expect Mortarion to be in that kind of regards. So he'll be a beat stick in combat because most of the big guys are. So his scythe and stuff is going to be powerful, 100%. But his strength is almost certainly going to be around his toughness or around his save, and I'm going to guess around toughness. So he's probably going to have at least an extra toughness than most things around his sort of size, and he's going to make things around him more resilient. That's my guess. But exciting times, and then after that we don't know what's coming next. So I don't know what people have said, what people think is going to be next. Oh, okay, so Craig saying 2 Masters and 6 Standard. But that is still nuts. That is still so hard to deal with. That's pretty cool. With all the weapons and what have you, that's pretty mental. That is pretty mental. Yeah, so Will's talking about the... do you find it ironic that when 8th dropped, you made a video asking if Tau were ever able to be good again? Now they won the Northwest Open and you came 5th with skill. Yeah, okay. So I suppose, yeah, we'll go on to questions now because it's a great way to kind of kick us off, Will. So do I think it's... So no, because if you watch back that video, I still expected there to be ways of playing Tau very powerfully. There was already talk of that list or variations of that list coming through. So it doesn't surprise me. And looking at it, my first glance and my first kind of look through that was that the power of the Tau weaponry was still there and still very evident. And in a game that to me is still about shooting, and was always going to be about shooting, when Overwatch is still there, you know, there's so many factors, and it's always going to be about shooting because it's set in this kind of atmosphere. If it was all about combat, it wouldn't work from a fluff point of view. You know, why would you go in and hit somebody when you can shoot them from a mile away with a big gun? It's not logical for it all to be about combat. So the game is always going to be focused around shooting, and just combat needs to be a big part of it as well. So I never expected Tau to be weak. It was more of a subject of discussion, particularly after them being seriously powerhouses. So it doesn't surprise me at all. I suppose I'd really like Tau to be stronger as a overall balanced army. I know we've spoke, Will, about a list around using Riptides more effectively and what have you, and I can see that working. But ultimately, if you want to build a very competitive Tau army, it consists of mainly drones and commanders, which is, you know, and I mean, you said it yourself, it's not the most exciting list to play. Still have to be very tactically clever with it. It still can be fragile. You still have to have a right balance, and you still need to arm those commanders correctly, unlike the way that you armed them, Will. But so there are more elements to it. It's not quite as simple and straightforward as, you know, as just kind of plug and play. There's a lot of tactics to it, so I wouldn't underestimate that level of it. But I just think it's a really ugly army on the table. It doesn't look fun, and I have no interest in playing it, but that's just me from a personal point of view. So I really, really hope that they're bringing more flavour in with the codex to come. What have we got? Let's have a quick look, because there's quite a few questions. Let me just have a check that I don't want to miss anything. So, right, Matty Morgan. Hi Ace, off to my first ITC event in Derby this coming November. Have you got any tips, tricks, advice for an event like that? Now, I think that Derby one's a big event, I believe. I think that's one of the biggest ones, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But if it's your, I don't know how many tournaments you played generally. So I think there's a big difference between if you played loads of tournaments and this just happens to be your first ITC one, then the biggest advice is just play lots of ITC. Find out what that exact tournament format is and play lots of that format, because it doesn't matter whether you've got your list down to a T. The way that a tournament forms its mission pack and the way that it plays the objectives, the way that it scores, means you have to play in that way, and you have to tailor your approach to winning that mission, not just playing your army. So make sure your practice games are around exactly that format. So that's if you're playing just at ITC. So if you've played a lot of tournaments and you're just thinking about ITC. If you're more generalised and you kind of not necessarily played a lot of tournaments, and you're kind of new to that kind of scene, the biggest advice is don't worry about it. Take an army that you enjoy playing. You don't play the powerhouse, don't play the net list. Play an army that you've played loads, that you enjoy and that you know inside and out, because one, you'll play it a lot quicker, and if you're not used to tournaments, the time restraints do stress people out. If you know the army very well, you'll just play it smoothly, quickly, you'll have fun with it, and you'll know it inside and out. And also, knowing an army inside and out is better than having a army that's incredibly powerful that you don't know how to play it. You'll look a fool, because everybody will expect that army to win, and when you lose with it, you're kind of like, well, I've lost with the net list, which isn't a cool look. And two, you'll have much more fun playing with an army that you know, and then you get used to that kind of tournament setting, and you'll then find that you can then tailor your list and kind of build up that competitive level if you want to. But ultimately, there's a lot of players, and a lot of players from my group, Squid Badgers, big shout out there. I know there's guys in the chat. A lot of players within that group have no issues at all about playing around the mid to bottom of the table, because it's around an opportunity to play 5 or 6 games in a weekend, have a catch up with people you've not seen for a while, roll some dice, you know, have some drinks, have a good time and just enjoy the atmosphere of being in a tournament, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if you go with that expectation of maybe winning a couple of games if you can, and just generally having fun in the hobby, then you'll ultimately come away from the tournament in a better place and happier that way. So hopefully that answers your question. Let's just scroll down. Have you heard Tyranid Dominatrix is in the works? It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. But it's been in the works for many years, Will. So, you know, I mean, they said it in one of their kind of live Q&A things that actually their planning for model production runs more like 3 years in advance. There are model sculpts and CAD designs and what have you that are well and truly ready, but just around their manufacturing line and the way that they plan those releases means that a line that potentially is produced for a codex, so for instance like a Death Guard model, might not even come out this Death Guard codex. It might be planned for their next release in 2 years time, whatever it might be. They plan it around that kind of retail element of it. So yeah, I mean, the Dominatrix has been rumoured and been in production apparently for a long time, but you know, it wouldn't surprise me. The fluff is pointing to the fact that Tyranids are evolving, their assault is getting much more substantial. What we've seen in the past is just purely splinter hives, splinter fleets, and now much more the big stuff is starting to come through. So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw some bigger bugs and some new bugs, but that's probably wishful thinking, and we would say that, wouldn't we, Will? Right, let's go up and see. Right, what hurts Tau is ballistic skill. It's why commanders are great. Yeah, absolutely, which is why people are just taking commanders, because then you don't worry about the ballistic skill. Have you got names for the Iron Brothers? The Iron Brothers? What, the army? Oh, I know what you mean. Okay. So Keith is from Ravensblade Studio, Ravensblade Painting, and he is very kindly painting up my incredible Space Marine army that is in the process of coming along really nicely. And I've put a few pictures up every now and again when I just have to show something off, because I'm kind of like bubbling and waiting to explode. So I quite often put a couple of pictures every now and again up on my Instagram page, so do check out my Instagram if you want to see some of the work in progress pictures of the Emperor's Hands. But what I have got is 2 of the new Dreadnoughts. And I don't have names for them at the moment, so no, I don't have names as the answer. So my 2 Leviathans for my World Eaters are Earthquake and Typhoon, the natural disasters from the old WWF days, which I just think someone kind of suggested it, and that's such a cool, so that's stuck. But yeah, the 2 of them will have to have names, Keith, but I haven't thought of any yet. It sounds like Rob's going as well. A few people are knocking off now. It's quite late, we won't hang around too much longer. Let's have a little look. Have you found the 8th? You can set up a pretty table, yet the entire game basically takes place in about a quarter of it or a third of it. Yeah, but again, it's just the way that armies have been built at the moment. I expect that to change. Objective secure coming in and factors like that. I just think it's potentially the way. And I think terrain is going to be, it's not necessarily going to be pretty, it's going to be big and it's going to be imposing. I think that's the key to it. We'll see even more line of sight blocking. It's going to be part and parcel of the way the game's played, particularly at competitive level. So I'm quite excited with that. My list was excellent. I would have won the NWO. I made one mistake is all. Nothing wrong with my list. Grr. Yeah, your list was really good, just not quite as good as Felix's. Oh, sorry. No, you got a bad break, and yeah, potentially a couple of mistakes or a mistake or so. But you know, we all make them mistakes. But yeah, you know, your list was spot on, Will. Yeah, Harry came 37th, Dark Artisan, and loved it. It was great. It was great to have you there, mate. Really, really cool to have you there. So there's people chatting. So if there's any other questions, I'll open the channel, as I said, just for another couple of minutes to see whether anybody wants to answer any questions, and then we'll close off today. But just while I'm waiting, what I will just say again, thank you everyone for watching. If you are kind of still watching now, I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging around. Do keep an eye on the channel. We've got, as I said, 2 really cool battle reports dropping over the next couple of weeks. I promise you they'll be up. Been really busy recently, so apologies with the lack of content. I do feel very guilty whenever there's not a lot of content on the channel. I feel like I'm letting you down, guys, so I do take it to heart, and I will be trying my best to get some more content out for you as quickly as I possibly can. Do keep up to date with my Instagram and my Facebook page, because I try and keep you with loads and loads of kind of pictures and work in progress and stuff through there. So do keep an eye on that, and hopefully that kind of fills up some of the gaps. But content's coming, I promise you. And if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to Twisted Dice, the sister channel, where I'm kind of teamed up with a few of my good friends, and so there's some content coming out of there nice and quick at the moment. So we've got a battle report that will come out over the next couple of days. You get a look at a demon combined with a bit of the new Chaos Space Marine goodness against Gene Stealer Cult. Really cool game. I watched it back today. I'm not playing in it as 2 of the other guys, but it's a wicked game and one worth watching. There's also some good Forge World previews and unboxings over there as well. So if you haven't already, go and check out Twisted Dice. There'll be a link in the description below. Have a quick look. Knights. Can you plug my tournament? Can you plug my tournament? Yes, Will, absolutely. So I can't remember the name of it. Put the name down. If you're still in the chat, put the name down. But if you're still around, guys, so Will and the guys up in Scotland, north of the border, are running their second big tournament, and it will be awesome, because I'll tell you why it'd be awesome, because Will and the guys have been, you know, down to the Northwest Open, the Last Chance Open, the last 3 times. Always bring the fight, always bring the energy and enthusiasm, and they've seen how it's done, basically, and they are doing their own thing now north of the border, and it will be awesome. I'd love to go. I'm really hoping I can. I know Dave from Wargames is going, and he's coming up with the smack talk because he wants to go and win it, and Dave used to be an incredibly competitive, proper whack player, so I know he's going to bring the heat, and there'll be some really good players up there. So if you're around, so it is the Scottish Takeover 2. It is November the 4th and 5th. So if you're watching this after this live, do, you know, look out for that one, and I'll get a link from Will, and I'll drop it on my Facebook page, so you can kind of see there. I don't know whether there's one up and running at the moment, but if there isn't, when there is, there'll be a link on my Facebook page, so you can see all the details for that. But it will be an awesome event, so definitely, if you're getting your kind of getting excited about 8th edition and want to play some tournament play, one worth checking out. Sounds like Dark Arson might fancy a bit of that, which is cool. But anyway, guys, I've waffled enough. Thank you very much, and until the next Wargaming Weekly, hopefully next week, we'll see you all again soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye for now. Cheers.